Longest common subsequence. This is one of those problems which can make you realize how tricky string problems can actually be. And to make things even hard, you will soon realize that it involves dynamic programming as well. So personally, I have felt that this problem is a major hurdle when you're trying to solve programming questions. So in this video, my main aim will be to simplify this concept as much as I can. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. First, I will explain the problem statement and we'll look at a sample test case. Going forward, we will see how you can approach this problem step by step so that it feels very natural when you're arriving at a solution. After that, we will also do a dry run of the code so that you can understand how all of this is actually working in action. Without further ado, let's get started. First of all, let's try to make sure that you're understanding the problem statement correctly. In this problem, you are given two strings and you have to find the length of the longest common subsequence. It is pretty straightforward, right? But you have to understand what is actually a subsequence. So let us say you are given this example string. Now, this string can have a lot of subsequences possible. For example, A, B, C is a subsequence. A, B, and D is also a subsequence. And you can also have A, B, D, F also as a subsequence. So a subsequence can be any set of characters that you can form from the original string, and the only condition is that they should appear in the same order. It is not necessary that those characters have to be continuous. So this example string can have a lot of different subsequences. So this is what a subsequence actually means. Now, in this problem statement, you are given with two strings, right? So these two strings will have a lot of possible subsequences, correct? And you have to find out what is the longest possible common subsequence between these two strings. For this particular test case, you will be able to find out the longest common subsequence when you pick the characters A, B, C, and then a F. So for our first test case, 4 will be your answer. Because this is the length of the longest common subsequence, right? You can see that you cannot form any other subsequence that has a length more than 4, correct? Similarly, let us look at our second test case. In our second test case, my first string is ABC and the other is DEF. You notice that there are no common characters at all. So you will not be able to form any common subsequence between them. So for a second test case, 0 will be your answer. Because you cannot form any common subsequence and its length will be 0, correct? So now, if you feel that you have understood the problem statement even better, first feel free to try the problem once again on your own. Otherwise, let us dive into the solution. Here we are with a sample test case. You are given these two strings, right? And you have to find out the longest common subsequence. If you start to think about a brute force solution, you will soon realize that it is not feasible. What will you do? You will try to form all possible subsequences with your first string, right? And so on, right? You will have a lot of these subsequences. And then your next step will be, you will try to find out these subsequences in your second string, right? So you will keep on making all of these comparisons and ultimately somehow you will find a string that has the longest length, correct? And that will be your answer. So surely, if you're given infinite amount of time, yes, this solution works. But this is not efficient at all, right? You will spend a lot of time just trying to make up these different combinations and then trying to verify if they are actually a subsequence or not, right? So certainly we need something better. Let us try to approach this problem in the most natural way possible. And the best way will be to approach it step by step. For the moment, forget completely that there is a second string. Just focus that, okay, you only have one string for now. And let us go character by character. So the first character is A, right? So when I have my first character and I do not have any string at all, what is the longest common subsequence that you can find? Its length will be 0, right? Because you do not have any other string to compare at all, right? So I can write down that when I have only one character, that is A, and no other string to compare it with, what will be my answer? My answer will be 0, right? Because this is the length of the longest common subsequence that you can form, right? Now let us start to add more characters one by one. Remember that we do not have the second string at all right now. So now add one more character. So my first string becomes AB. The second string is still empty. So what is the length of the longest subsequence I can form? It will be again 0, right? So you can see that as I continue to add more characters, C, D, A and then a F. Since I do not have second string at all, I cannot have a common subsequence. So its length will be 0 throughout. So what this is telling you is that if you do not have a second string at all and your first string only has A, then 0 is the length of the longest common subsequence that you can form. If you do not have the second string at all and you have the string A, B, C, D, then once again 0 is the length of the longest common subsequence that you can form. So just keep this in mind and we are gonna expand on it. Just follow me step by step and everything will be clear to you just in a moment. So this is how I have done my initial setup, right? Now is the time to introduce our second string, right? And once again, we will do it character by character. So what happens is I only take up my first character and I will try to now compute my results. What I just did is I added the letter A to my second string. Now look at this block. What does this block represent? This block represents that, okay, my first string has the character A and the second string, this also has the character A right now. So once you see this, you can say that, okay, now I can start to form a longest common subsequence. You see that, okay, both of these characters are same. So you can have a subsequence of just a single character, right? And that is A. So what I'm going to write down is, in this block, I will write down 1 because 1 will be the length of that subsequence, right? Move on to the second block. First of all, you have to understand what does all of these blocks mean. This block means that the first string has the characters A and B and the second string only has a character A. When you see these strings now, A, B and A, what is the longest common subsequence? The longest common subsequence still remains A, right? And what is its length? Its length is 1 again. So in the second block also, I'm just going to write down 1. And subsequently, you can see that as I will keep on adding more characters C, D, A and F, no matter what I do, I just have one character in my second string, right? So this will be the longest possible subsequence, right? And that will be A itself. And its length will be 1. So I can easily populate all of my remaining elements as well. So now I have completed one character of my second string, right? And just notice, what is this array trying to tell you at each and every point of time? For example, when you look at this element is telling you that the longest possible subsequence will be 1 when you have string 1 as ABC and string 2 as A. Once again, the longest possible subsequence will have a length 1 when your string 1 is A, B, C, D, A, F and your second string is just A. So this is how we are building our solution. So if this is clear to you, let us add one more character and suddenly things will start to make a lot more sense. The next character I add is C, right? I add a C over here. Now you have to populate this block, correct? When you have to populate this block, first of all, try to understand what does this block mean. This block means that the first string is just A and the second string is A and C, right? Out of these two strings, what is the length of the longest possible subsequence? String 1 has just one character, right? And this will be your answer. What is its length? Its length is 1. So you simply write down 1 over here. Now comes the interesting part. You have to populate this particular block, right? And what does this block represent? This block represents that the first string is AB and the second string is AC. And now try to observe the surrounding elements over here. What was this block representing? This block was representing that the first string is AB and the second string is just A, right? And what did this block represent? This block was representing that the first string is just A and the second string is AC. From these two particular states, you have to arrive at this state, correct? So how can you arrive? Either you add a C over here, so you're moving down, or you add a B over here, right? This is the only way that you can arrive at this particular scenario, right? So since you have already calculated what was the longest possible subsequence in these two scenarios, you can just reuse those results, right? Because you know that by adding B, you are not increasing the length of the longest common subsequence. So what I will just try to do is, I will take up the maximum value of both of these values. Right now, both of these are same, right? So I will just copy this value and I will write down a 1 over here. So this 1 is simply telling me that if my first string is AB and the second string is AC, then the length of the longest common subsequence will be just 1 itself, right? And you can see that A is the answer in this case, correct? Move ahead now. This time you have to populate this particular block, right? And notice that you're trying to add a C to your first string and you're trying to add a C to your second string. You are adding the same character to both of your strings, right? So certainly this character will be a part of your longest common subsequence because this is a common character, right? So what is your natural instinct at this point? If you have already calculated what was your previous result before adding the new character C, just take all of that and then add 1 to it because you are adding the new character C, correct? So right now for this particular block, you're trying to find out ABC and AC, correct? And your natural instinct says that before adding this C, what was my scenario like? Before adding the C, my strings should be A, B and A, right? What does this represent? This is basically referring to this particular block, right? You see that string 1 is just AB and string 2 is just A. So the most obvious solution will be that whatever the length is at this particular point, just add 1 to it because you are adding a new common character. So take up this length and add a 1. Just give it a little moment more and it will all make sense soon. This time you have to populate this block here, right? And what does this represent? This represents A, B, C, D and AC, correct? And how can you come here? You can come here from two possible scenarios. Either your strings were A, B, C, D and then a A, so you come down, or your strings were A, B, C and AC and then you add a D to arrive over here. Out of these two scenarios, when were you getting the longer common subsequence? You got the longer common subsequence in this case, right? So I will copy the larger of these two values. This time the larger value is 2, so I just copy it over here. Based upon this idea, move ahead once again. I am at this block. So what are my two new strings? My string is A, B, C, D and A and my string 2 is AC. What will you do? You will try to compare these two values and pick up the larger one. The larger value is 2, so you just write it down over here. Move to the next block and you add a F. This F gets added to my first string and once again you will compare these two values. 2 is the larger value, so you simply write down 2 over here. So this is telling me one thing. If I'm not adding a common character, just compare the two previous values and pick up the maximum one of them. If you are adding a new common character, look at the vertically opposite length and add a 1 to it. Based on this, let us try to add one more character. So once again, start the same procedure. I have to fill up this block, right? So for this block, my first string is just A and the second string will be ACB. Since you have just one common character, you will write down 1 over here, right? Now let us move to the next block. And this time I added a B to my second string. If you remember, I am adding a common character, right? So for this particular case, you will look at the vertically opposite value and add a 1 to it. If I add a 1, I will get a 2 over here. Now keep moving on. This time I add a C over here, right? So my first string becomes ABC and the second string becomes ACB. Since these two characters are different, what will I do? I will try to pick up the maximum value out of these two values. Since they both are same, I will just write down 2 over here. Similarly, now I arrive over here. D and B are not the same, so I will look at the maximum value out of these two. It is 2 once again, so I will just write it down. Similarly for this block, I see A and B are not the same, so compare the maximum value out of these two and write down 2 over here. Once again move ahead, just look at F and B, they are not the same, so compare the maximum value and write it down over here. They are same, so you write down 2 once again. So you see how we are adding one character at a time, right? And notice that this matrix is actually telling me what will be the length of the longest common subsequence at every instance or at every state. For example, this particular number, this is telling me the answer when my first string is ABCD and the second string is ACB. So if your question was, okay, find the longest common subsequence between these two strings, then this is your answer. If your question was, okay, find the longest common subsequence between these two strings, then this is your answer. You're getting the idea, right? Now let us add more characters one by one and try to find the final answer. I now add the next character, and that is C. Start forming your strings again. For my first block, string 1 is just A, and the string 2 is A, C, B, and C, right? The length of the longest common subsequence will be just 1 in this case, correct? Move to the next block. C and B are not the same. So you compare the maximum value out of these two. 2 is larger, so I will just write down 2 over here. Move ahead now. You see a C over here, right? And this column also has C. These two values are same. So you look at the vertically opposite value, and that is 2. You add 1 to this value, and then you get a 3 over here. This way, keep moving ahead for this block. You compare C and D. They are not the same, so pick up the larger value. 3 is larger, so I write it down. Move to the next block, compare A and C. They are not the same, so pick the larger value of 3 and 2, and you write down 3 over here. Similarly, for the last block, compare F and C. They are not the same, so pick up the larger value, and that is 3. So once again, you have completed one more character. So if your first string was A, B, C, D, A, F, and your second string was A, C, B, the length of the longest common subsequence will be 3. Similarly, let us quickly add the last row, and I will talk about how you can actually find out what is the longest common subsequence. To start populating this, when you have just one character, you will copy down 1 over here. You see that F and B are not the same, so pick the larger value, and that is 2. Compare C and F, they are not the same, so pick the larger value, and that is 3. Compare D and F, they are not the same, pick the larger value. They both are same, so just write down 3 once again. Compare A and F, they are not the same. Once again, pick the larger value, they are same, so write down 3. Next, you see that F is same. So look at the vertically opposite value. This is 3, so add a 1 to it, and you get a 4. So for your exact test case, when your first string is A, B, C, D, A, F, and your second string is A, C, B, C, F, the length of the longest common subsequence will be 4. And this, in fact, will be your answer. Now, if you want to actually find out that, okay, what is my longest common subsequence? You start from the last value. This is 4, right? So you got this 4 when the character was F, right? You now need to find out where did this 4 come from. You got this 4 from 3. And to identify that, okay, what is the next character? Try to identify where did the 3 come from. So you start moving in the backwards direction. This 3 came over here, right? And how did you get it? You got it from the letter C. So you write down C over here. Where did you get this 3 from? You went backwards, right? So you get a 2. Notice that you cannot go anywhere in the back. So this was the point where I got the letter B. So this will be also added to my subsequence. Once again, you go backwards over here and you see a 1 over here. And where did you get this 1 from? Go back and then you see a A. So you write down A over here. So if someone asks you that, okay, you got the length, but what is the longest common subsequence? This will be your answer. What we just did over here is dynamic programming. And this matrix is doing memoization. That means you are storing at each instance that what will be the result and then expanding upon it, right? And now to quickly summarize it, let us do a dry run of the code so that you understand how it is actually working. On the left side of your screen, you have the actual code to implement this solution. And on the right, once again, I have my 2 sample strings that are passed in as an input parameter to the function longest common subsequence. Oh, and by the way, this complete code and its test cases are also available on my GitHub profile. Moving on with the dry run, first thing that we do is we construct our matrix. So this matrix actually stores all of your memoized results. Now we simply iterate over each of the strings one by one, character by character, and we will keep on populating these values. If you find a common character in both the strings, that is this condition over here, you look at the vertically opposite value and add a 1 over here. If these values are not same, you just compare the top value and the value at the left and pick out the maximum value amongst them. So if these characters are same over here, just look up this value and add a 1. If these values are not the same, just pick up whatever is the maximum value from the top and left and write it down over here. When all of this traversal is complete, just return this last value and this will be the length of the longest common subsequence. The time complexity of this solution is order of m cross n, where m is the length of first string and n is the length of second string. The space complexity of this solution is also order of m cross n because you need to create a matrix to memorize all of the results. I hope I was able to simplify the problem and its solution for you. As per my final thoughts, I just want to say that whenever it comes to dynamic programming, there is no set rule to solve a problem. So, unfortunately, the best way that you can approach a lot of questions is to practice as much as you can. And soon you will start to realize that there are certain patterns on which different problems are made up. For example, you have string based problems, and then you can have problems that are composed of arrays. So, you might encounter a problem where you need two-dimensional arrays to have all of your memorization. Once you are able to figure out these certain basics, you will be able to attack dynamic programming problems easily. And the key thing is always very important. That is, you have to start with a very small segment and then try to expand upon it. Try to use your previous results to get your new results. That is the main crux. So, while going throughout this video, did you face any problems? Or have you found any better methods to solve the same problem? Tell us everything in the comment section below and I would love to discuss all of it with you. It will be also helpful for anyone else who is watching this video. As a reminder, if you found this video helpful, please do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This motivates me to make more and more such videos where I can simplify programming for you. Also, let me know what problems do you want me to solve next. Until then, see ya.